This is Find Your Dream Job, the podcast that helps you get hired, have the career you want, and make a difference in life. I'm your host, Mac Pritchard. I'm also the founder of Mac's List. It's a job board in the Pacific Northwest that helps you find a fulfilling career. Every Wednesday, I talk to a different expert about the tools you need to get the work you want. You're ready to move on. So what do you want to do next? If you don't know, you're making your next job search harder and longer. Sara Stowe is here to talk about how to get clear about what you want. She's the Vice President of People and Culture at Terpenes. Her company creates high-quality, thoroughly tested, and trusted aromatics, and she joins us from Portland, Oregon. Well, let's jump right into it. Sara, when we talk about getting clear about what you want, what does this mean exactly in a job search?
When we talk about finding a dream job or following your passion, it's sort of assuming that people already know what that is. And I work a lot with high school students doing workforce readiness and job prep and what's next. And, most of them, and I think most of us, when we look back, it's like, we didn't necessarily have a dream, or we maybe had a dream, but we didn't have the talent, or maybe we had the dream, but we didn't have the privilege to be able to pursue it. But for most of us, we don't know what that means. And there was several years ago, there was just really kind of like a big theme of that, of like, pursue your passion, pursue your dream. That's where you'll find happiness. And I don't disagree with that. But I think where it left people was feeling like, well, I don't have that. So then does work and a job mean I'm not going to be happy? There's no happiness for me to find there. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because we're responsible for our own happiness.
Why do people struggle with this, not only when they're coming out of high school or college, but later in their career? What's been your experience?
There's a certain aspect of knowing yourself and understanding sort of where your values are. And if you're in misalignment, sometimes you can't put your finger on it, and it just feels dissatisfying. You're dissatisfied in the work and not knowing where to start. And I think sometimes there's also just that ethos out there that you're not supposed to enjoy work. Or maybe, dreams are meant for some people and not for me. Or fulfilling work is meant for others and not for me. And so I think it's first recognizing that no matter what job you have, even if you're not feeling fulfilled in it, somebody is. And, if you're on that journey of trying to figure out what is your dream job, also figure out why do some people feel connected to this work?
Okay. And let's talk about the job search. What happens if you're not clear about what you want to do next? What do you see happen to candidates, whether it's the recent graduates that you work with in the community, or as an HR director working with professionals who might have years in the workplace? If people don't know what's the answer to that question, what does their job search look like?
It's going to feel a little bit more haphazard. It's going to be driven more by what I call the bright and shiny objects. So as we take the time to think about kind of all the things that we want, there's going to be things on there that, if they're in abundance, could distract us from the things that are also important to us. And if we haven't done the work to figure that out, we might find ourselves in a situation where, the office is really beautiful, or they've got a brand that everybody's really excited about, or, their benefits package is so great. But, those are just some aspects of fulfilling work and working, at an organization that aligns with you. So I think that's a risk, is kind of getting yourself into a situation where, we're not talking about people who are not thoughtful in their job search, who are not, trying to assess the next opportunity they have. But if they don't have that full sort of brief, right, of what matters to me, again, they could get distracted by the bright and shiny objects. And there's the other thing of, when we're on the hiring side, of all the questions that we have and of all the prep we do for an interview, we're essentially looking to answer 3 questions. Can the person do the job? Are we going to like working with them? And are they going to love it? And that question for us, we can really only assess by the questions the candidate is asking us. So if you're really clear on what you want and you're asking the questions that are helping you make that assessment, we can start to read, okay, like it sounds like we're the kind of organization this person is looking for. I'm pretty confident that they're going to love the job because the reason why the employer cares about why you love the job, that's where engagement lives. And that's where retention lives. That's where that extra energy comes when you've got a problem that's hard to solve. So it's important. I mean, it's important for us as individuals that we're loving what we do. It's important for your employer and your manager as well. So the clearer you can get on it, the clearer you're going to be as a candidate that we're going to want to hire.
Okay. Well, let's talk about how to get that clarity. And you've touched on a number of points already. But one of the first steps I know you recommend people take is to give yourself time to figure this out. Tell us more about this. Why do you need to give yourself time to get clear about what you want to do next?
Yeah, time and intention. Pursue it as a project. This is something that I'm going to be doing for myself. But yes, to give yourself time of being in the frame of mind of, we're in open enrollment, right? So maybe your frame of mind is thinking about the health and welfare of your family and of yourself, of your benefits, of your compensation, of the life you want to build, the retirement that you want to have. So those aspects are going to be important to you in employment. So maybe that's one frame of mind. Maybe another frame of mind is you just came back from a team offsite and wow, you are feeling so connected with these people. And, then you break down like, well, what is it about those things? What would that look like in an organization, right? Because you're trying to translate a feeling into something that I can see and ask about and we can speak to. So what would that look like in an organization? Um, Maybe you had one of those meetings that didn't go so well and somebody showed up in a way that you're like, it's really gonna be hard to walk into another meeting with this person. What qualities are you looking for in your coworkers? And really focus on the things that you want. Don't spend any time on the things that you don't want because it's sort of like playing a round of golf, right? Like you're trying to get a ball in a hole that's surrounded by the entire planet. So so we could spend all the time in the world talking about the things we don't want, but really focus on the things that you do want.
All right. So think about the kinds of people you want to work with, what reflect back on experiences you found particularly satisfying, and take time to consider those things. Uh, let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Sara Stowe about how to get clear about what you want. Stay with us. We're back in the Max List studio. I'm talking with Sara Stowe. She's the Vice President of People and Culture at True Terpenes. Her company creates high quality, thoroughly tested, and trusted aromatics. And she joins us from Portland, Oregon. Well, Sara, before the break, we were talking about how to get clear about what you want. And we talked in the first segment about why it's important to do this, what can happen in a job search if you don't have that clarity. And you began to share practical steps people can take to get clear about what you want to do next. We talked about the importance of time and thinking, reflecting on positive experiences you've had, the coworkers you've worked with. I know another tip that you have for getting clarity about what you want to do next is to figure out what you can compromise on and what you can't compromise on. Tell us more about this. Why is that important?
The bright and shiny objects are incredibly attractive. That's why that's why they have that name. And when it comes down to it, they lose their sheen after a while. The office will just start to look like the office, and the brand. You start to see kind of the reality behind the brand, and you want to be with an organization where you feel aligned with the values, with the mission, and so that list will really keep you honest as you go out, as you explore different organizations. Because yeah, we know the big companies, but there's like hundreds. I mean, just in this area, right, just in the Portland area, hundreds and hundreds of companies that are the same size as ours, that are doing cool things, that have great culture that you've never heard of. And so you're going to be coming across these organizations through your networking, through your job search. And as you meet them and as you're learning about them and you're sizing them up really against that list, make it a list. And you don't have to share the list with anybody, but do make it a list. And as you were reflecting on that list and as you're building that list and going back and looking at it as it's coming together, you'll know instinctively these are the things I can compromise on and these are the things I cannot.
Give us examples of things that should be on the list. I mean, you talked about bright, shiny objects, but give us some more specificity, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, you could make your list as specific as, what kind of quality of life you want to have outside of work when it comes to a commute that you're willing to do. You could, from a values perspective, as you explore the company, are you looking for a growth company? Are you looking for companies that are ambitious? Are you looking for companies that are really about sustaining and creating a family kind of atmosphere in the workplace and don't necessarily have an ambition for growth? No judgment either way. There's a place for each of us. Um, but those values at the end of the day, that is really going to be what is going to keep you at an organization and will keep you, working through again the challenges and the problems that you get to solve. Um, yeah, so values can be on there, the type of work that you want to be doing. Do you want to be working, really kind of heads down as an individual? Do you want to be working on a team? Do you want a mix of both? Do you want to be a manager? Are you good with being an individual contributor? Um, uh, yeah, so I mean, a complete list was probably going to be 100 different attributes.
That's a long list.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you separate the negotiables from the non-negotiables? What have you seen work?
I think when it comes to the negotiables, also think where else you're going to get that thing. So it was on the list for a reason. So if it's on the list because maybe maybe you're okay with it being um, uh, it being an individual contributor, but you'd rather have it be a mix, right? Ideally, I'd like it to be a mix of team and individual contributor, but this role is really just an individual contributor. If being around a team is negotiable, think about where else you're going to get that connection. Maybe you start volunteering. Maybe you're making sure that you're keeping those connections in your outside life. So, could the trade-off be found elsewhere outside of the work? And then also being really honest with yourself if the trade-off, if it is not negotiable, and it's okay to withdraw yourself from an interview process. As somebody who's recruited for 30 years now, it happens. It's okay. We understand. Again, we are looking for someone who's going to love the job. If you're not going to love it, that's yes, know that, because I am not going to be able to get you to love it. That's what you bring to it.
How about skills, Sarah? I know that you're a big fan of doing an inventory of skills, and you found that can bring clarity. Say more about that. How can knowing the skills you offer help you get clear about what you want to do next?
Yeah, and it's important to do that. I think not just for this kind of what's the ideal job that maybe I could pivot from what I'm doing now to something else, but it really is how HR is starting to rethink talent strategy, talent acquisition, because of the rapid evolution of technology and where we are with things like AI and robotics and jobs that we didn't have, and how do we reskill people and the obligation that companies have to find people that they can reskill into these new positions. So some of that work may be happening in your organization. You can borrow from that. There's a lot of assessments out there that you can do at a relatively low cost that can give you really like you've got these skills. So maybe if you've been a financial analyst, maybe you don't know that you're kind of 80% there to be a cybersecurity analyst. There are ways that you can pivot what you're doing. You don't just have to stay within the discipline that you've been working. So yeah, so those types of things, and particularly those skills that really energize you, have those be on the list. And hopefully companies are sharing things like job descriptions where they're also listing out those competencies and skills, and then you'll be able to speak to them in the interview. You'll be able to connect those dots for the interviewer with your experience.
And in your experience, what happens in an interview with a candidate who's gotten clear about the skills that they're most excited about and that actually match with the job description? What's that conversation like when you're on the recruiting side?
I think there's a level of confidence because while HR and talent strategy is moving towards skills, we still have a lot of managers out there who are focused on years of experience, and that and I'm all about, well, what are the quality of those years of experience? And so if you can speak with confidence and help, again, kind of connect the dots for the manager of, so I haven't necessarily been in an accounting team, or I have been in an accounting team, but the skills that I've built in the accounting team, when I think about the role of the cybersecurity analyst, by example, here are the ways that I see, me being successful in that role. And yeah, and there's nothing quite like being able to walk into an interview where it is high stakes and have confidence, and confidence part of that is competence.
Okay. When you're doing a search, it's sometimes you can get stuck. Uh, what do you recommend to somebody who's feeling overwhelmed or not sure how to get started and is struggling to figure out that clarity?
Keep going and do something. Um, maybe that frame of mind is I'm in a job that I didn't really plan for and I did take it haphazardly, right? So maybe I have found myself here. I wasn't thoughtful about it. I wasn't intentional about it, but here I am. Who else does this job that I can connect with? Who else has been doing this job for a long time that it seems like they like it? And this as much as I love my job, there's not very many people who want to talk to me about it. And so I take that as I work with high school students. I say like, find someone and ask for their advice. You don't know how infrequently that happens, and what a sort of touch of pride it is for us that somebody's coming to us and asking for advice. But to the advice around why do how do you feel connected to the work that you do? What about your work is important, not to just to you, but to the organization? Why does it matter? Because every single job that is filled by a person matters to that organization. Just practically as a business for economics, we have to look at it and make sure that every job we have is important. So if you know that job matters, finding somebody that can maybe express to you how they feel connected to it, why they understand that it matters, the penny might drop in that conversation. But it's also great networking. And you also might learn something. And as we build that competence and we build our confidence and we find that connection, we might discover that we actually are in a job that we love.
Well, it's been a great conversation. Sarah, now tell us what's next for you.
Well, what's next for me is we have our jewel in the crown of the Portland Workforce Alliance Northwest Youth Career Expo. So I've been volunteering with the Portland Workforce Alliance for about 15 years now. They're a wonderful nonprofit, and we do youth workforce readiness, and we have a wonderful career fair. So I'm in charge of recruiting all of the mock interviewers. So if anybody is interested in having one of the best mock interviews you can ever do, we are always looking for volunteers.
Oh, terrific. We'll be sure to include links to the Portland Workforce Alliance website in the show notes. And I know you also invite audience members to connect with you on LinkedIn. When you do reach out to Sarah, please mention you saw and heard her on Find Your Dream Job. Now, Sarah, given all the great advice you've shared today, what's the one thing you want an audience member to remember about how to get clear about what you want?
The advice I give is to keep going. The worst thing you can do is stop. So keep the momentum going as you step forward, even if it's into that kind of haphazard, didn't really think about it job. other opportunities are going to open up that you didn't even know were possible. So just be encouraged to keep going, connect with people in your network, but yeah, keep going.
Next week, our guest will be Claire Martin. She's the Director of Employer Engagement at Willamette University in Salem, Oregon. Before joining higher education, Claire worked in human resources and helped recruit hundreds of people. As an applicant, you may find the hiring process to be both mysterious and opaque. Join us next Wednesday when former recruiter Claire Martin pulls back the curtain and shares her hiring secrets. Until next time, thanks for letting us help you find your dream job. This show is produced by Max List. Susan Thornton-Hoff schedules our guests and writes our newsletter. Lisa Kislenberry Anderson manages our social media and creates our transcripts. Our sound engineer and editor is Anna McLean, and our music is by Freddie Trujillo. This is Mac Pritchard. See you next week.